My career is rising, and I need freedom. Someone who understands my ambition, my wife said, walking in with her boss, smiling like she'd already won. I stayed silent, slid an envelope across the table, and watched their faces change. The first thing you should know about betrayal is that it doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It walks through your front door wearing your wife's perfume and your boss's mocking smile, and it settles into your favorite armchair as if it were the damn owner of the place. It was 11:47 on a Tuesday night when Eva brought Nick home. I was in the kitchen pretending to care about the bourbon in my glass, but what I really cared about was the manila envelope hidden under the sink behind the cleaning supplies. 3 months of work, 3 months of watching my wife transform from the woman I married into someone I barely recognized. Eva's voice had that particular tone, the one she used when she was about to deliver news she thought would devastate me, the one that said she had already won. I turned slowly, letting the moment stretch out. Eva stood in the doorway of our kitchen, her 5 feet 6 inches of corporate ambition wrapped in a designer dress that I definitely hadn't paid for. Behind her, Nick filled the frame as if he were posing for a cologne ad. Salt and pepper hair in his late 40s, styled with pinpoint precision. A suit that probably cost more than my truck. "We need to talk," Eva said. "Sure," I said, gesturing to the table with my glass. "Sit down." "Oh wait, your friend has already taken my chair." Nick had indeed settled into my chair at the head of our dining table. The chair I had restored myself last summer while Eva worked late. While Eva, as I now knew, was working Nick. "Will, don't be childish," Eva said, but I saw a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. This wasn't going as she had planned. "Childish," I laughed, setting down the glass. "That's rich. You bring your boss to our house at midnight, and I'm the one being childish." Nick leaned back in my chair, spreading his hands. "Look, pal, I know this is awkward. Don't lift a finger. Don't call me pal. Don't call me friend. Don't call me anything except the guy whose house you're sitting in uninvited at midnight." Eva took a step forward, her expression hardening into that boardroom mask she had perfected since her promotion 6 months ago. Human Resources Executive. The title had changed everything, or maybe it had just revealed what was always there. "I want a divorce," she said in a flat, cold voice. "I've already spoken to a lawyer. I'm moving up in the world. Well, I need freedom. I need someone who understands ambition, who can match my energy." Nick has been an incredible support during this difficult time. The script was perfect. She had probably rehearsed it in front of the mirror. Maybe Nick had helped her polish it during their late-night strategy sessions in his penthouse. I nodded slowly, as if I were processing this devastating news, as if my world were crumbling. Then I walked to the sink, reached under it, and pulled out the envelope. "It's funny you should mention that," I said, sliding it across the table. "Because I've been doing a lot of thinking too." Eva's perfectly manicured hand trembled slightly as she touched the envelope. Nick leaned forward, curiosity replacing arrogance. The kitchen was silent except for the creaks of the old house, the groans and moans that had witnessed 20 years of history and were now witnessing its end. She opened it. I watched her face go through confusion, recognition, and finally, sheer terror. Inside was everything. Printed text messages from the last 4 months. Photos I had taken from the parking lot across from Nick's building. Nothing graphic, just the two of them leaving together, arriving together, his hand on the small of her back in a way that was not professional. Bank statements showing mysterious deposits into an account I wasn't supposed to know about. A meticulously documented timeline of every late night, every business trip that wasn't exactly business. But the kicker was the last page. A detailed breakdown of the company's policy on fraternization between executives and subordinates, with highlighted sections on conflicts of interest and a copy of the email Nick had sent to HR, Eva's own department, 6 months ago, recommending her for the promotion. "Son of a bitch," Eva whispered. "Funny," I said. "I was thinking the same thing about him." Nick shot up so fast he knocked over my chair. "You think you're so clever? You think this means anything? I have lawyers who will bury you." I smiled. I actually smiled because this was the moment I had been waiting for. "Go ahead, call them. And while you're at it, maybe explain to them how you promoted your girlfriend to head of HR. I'm sure that will go over well with the board of directors, especially since Eva has been the one handling all those harassment complaints from your other female employees." The color drained from Nick's face. Eva's hand was still trembling, the papers rustling like withered leaves. "You've been planning this," she said. 3 months, I confirmed, since I found the first message. "You weren't as careful as you thought, Eva. You used our shared laptop to message him, our shared cloud storage for the photos. You really should have paid attention during those cybersecurity training sessions." Nick took a step toward me, and I saw it coming. The alpha male move, the physical intimidation that probably worked in boardrooms. He raised his hand, his finger pointing at my chest. I slapped it away. Not a punch, a slap. Open-palmed, dry, and humiliating. His phone went flying from his other hand, skittering across our hardwood floor. "You're not in your office now, champ," I said quietly. "You're in my house, and in my house, we have different rules." Nick stumbled back, his hand to his face, his eyes wide with surprise. No one had probably touched him like that since elementary school. Eva rushed to his side, and I watched her choose him in real time. Her hand on his arm, her body turning away from me. "Get out," I said. "Both of you. Eva, you have until Friday to get your things. After that, this envelope and everything in it goes to your company's board of directors. Nick, you might want to check your car. I think you have a flat tire. Maybe 2. They left. Eva was crying. Nick was cursing, and I stood in my kitchen, listening as their expensive car limped down the street on 2 slashed tires, courtesy of the box cutter I had used an hour earlier. I poured myself another bourbon. My hands were steady, my heart was calm. The first move had been made, and it had landed exactly where I wanted. This was just the beginning. 3 months earlier, I was a different person. Trusting, maybe stupid, definitely blind. I'm a project manager for Hendricks Construction, which means I spend my days making sure buildings stay up and workers stay safe. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. I'm good at it. I understand structures, foundations, how to spot weaknesses before they become disasters. I wish I had applied those skills to my marriage sooner. The first crack appeared on a Wednesday. Eva came home at 2 a.m., claiming a work emergency. She smelled of wine and a cologne that wasn't mine. When I asked, she got defensive, turned it around on me, made me feel guilty for questioning her. Classic gaslighting. I know that now. The second crack. I needed to use her laptop because mine was updating. I found her Gmail still logged in. I saw a message notification from Nick. The preview was enough. Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about. I didn't open it. No. Instead, I closed the laptop, made coffee, and started thinking like a project manager. If you have a structural problem, you don't just patch the visible crack. You investigate the entire foundation. I started with the easy stuff, our shared cloud storage. Photos, documents, everything. Eva had created a new folder called Work Projects. Inside were photos that had nothing to do with work. Her and Nick at restaurants I couldn't afford. Her and Nick at some beach resort. Her and Nick in his penthouse, visible through the reflection in the window, his hand in her hair. I downloaded everything. Made 3 backups. Then came the finances. We had separate accounts, but I was still listed on some of the old joint accounts from before her promotion. There was one account I didn't recognize, linked to our main one. Small, regular transfers. I did some digging. It was a savings account in her name only, with $10,000 in it. Money she had been siphoning from bonus checks I didn't know about. Then I got creative. I called Marty. Marty Kowalski had been my best friend since high school. He worked with me in construction. He had a face like a baseball mitt and a heart bigger than the state of Maine. He also had a sister who worked as a paralegal. I need to understand divorce law. I told him over beers at the old boiler room, our regular spot. Hypothetically, Marty looked at me with those sad puppy dog eyes. Eva, right, brother? I'm sorry. What do you need? What I needed was information. Marty's sister, Patricia, gave me the basics over coffee. In Maine, adultery doesn't matter much for asset division, but it does for other things. Reputation, employment, especially when work ethics are involved. If someone in HR was having an affair with her boss, I asked carefully, and that boss had promoted her, would that be a problem? Patricia's eyebrows shot up. That would be a huge problem. Conflict of interest, potential harassment implications, ethics violations. If the company found out, both parties would be fired on the spot, possibly sued. I filed that information away. Next, I talked to Janine Martinez, Eva's work friend, the one who loved gossip more than oxygen. I ran into her at the grocery store by pure chance, except I had been tracking Eva's location via Find My iPhone and knew she would be there. Will? Oh my God. Hi, Janine. It was all fake enthusiasm and real curiosity. How are you? I never see you anymore. Eva keeps me busy, I said, loading my cart with beer. She's been working so hard lately. All those late nights with Nick. I watched Janine's face carefully. There it was, a flicker of knowledge, of keeping a secret. Oh yes. Nick relies on her so much, Janine said too quickly. They're working on a huge project together, super important. It must be, I nodded. Sometimes she comes home smelling like his cologne. I guess they're very close. Janine's smile faltered. I should go? Tell Eva I said hi. She practically fled, which told me everything. The office knew. Of course they knew. Office affairs are like accidents on a construction site. Everyone sees them coming except the people involved. I spent the next 2 months gathering evidence. I borrowed a camera from Marty and spent 3 nights a week in the parking lot across from Nick's building. I got pictures of them leaving together, arriving together, his hand on her back, her laughing at something he said. I went through our cell phone records, hundreds of texts between them at all hours. I couldn't read the content, but the frequency told the story. I talked to Mrs. Dodson, our elderly neighbor, who spent most of her day watching the street from her window. She had seen Nick's BMW parked in front of our house several times when I was at work. She had seen him leave, adjusting his tie. She had been dying to tell someone, and I was finally asking. I thought maybe he was a friend, she said, clutching her teacup. But the way he looked around before he left, like he didn't want to be seen, I knew something wasn't right. Thank you, Mrs. Dodson. You've been a great help. I compiled everything in that envelope. Timeline, photos, financial records, company policy violations. I made 5 copies, stored them in different places. One with Marty, one with Patricia, one in a safe deposit box, one in my truck, and one under the sink. Then I waited for Eva to make her move. I knew it was coming. She had been distant, cold, picking fights over nothing. She was building her case, her justification, turning me into the bad guy so she could leave with a clear conscience. When she finally walked through that door with Nick, I was ready. But that was just the opening move. The real game was about to begin. The morning after the envelope reveal, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Eva and 1 text that just said, "We need to talk alone." I deleted it. Instead, I called in sick to work, a first in 3 years, and drove to Marty's house. He lived in a small ranch house on the east side of town, the kind that's always half-finished because Marty kept starting projects he never completed. He opened the door in boxers and a Metallica t-shirt, a coffee in his hand. "You look like hell." "I feel worse. Can I use your garage?" "For what?" "For revenge." Marty grinned. "Brother, my garage is your garage." Eva's car was still at the house. She had left with Nick in his BMW the night before. It was a silver Lexus, her pride and joy, leased with the money from her promotion. The promotion Nick had given her, the promotion that was about to evaporate. I'd learned a lot about cars working in construction, including how to make them very inconvenient without causing permanent damage. With Marty on lookout, I siphoned half her gas tank into a jerry can. Then I loosened her battery cables just enough so they would work intermittently. Finally, I let some air out of her tires, not flat, just low enough to trigger the pressure warning. "That's petty," Marty observed. "That's the point." We were back at his place by 9. At 9:30, my phone rang. "Eva, my car won't start," she yelled. "I have a meeting at 10 and my car won't start." "Did you try checking the battery?" I asked innocently. "I don't know how to check the battery. Can you come home and fix it?" "I'm at Marty's. We're working on his deck. Call a mechanic." "Will, please, I need to." I hung up, turned off my phone, and poured myself another coffee. "Are you enjoying this?" Marty said. "As a matter of fact, I'm." Phase 2 began that afternoon at the old boiler room. The bar was an institution in our town, there since the 60s. It still had the original fixtures and the same smell of beer and regret. It was where construction workers, cops, nurses, and half the town came to unwind. It was also where Janine Martinez went every Thursday for happy hour. I got there at 4, took a booth in the corner, and waited. Marty sat at the bar, playing his part perfectly, the concerned friend having a few drinks. Janine showed up at 4:30 with 2 other women from Eva's office. I recognized them from company parties, Sarah and Michelle, both administrative assistants. I waited until they were 2 drinks in, then I walked past their table on my way to the restroom. Janine spotted me immediately. "Will, oh my God, I didn't know you came here. I always come here. Marty and I are regulars. How are you? I heard that. I mean, Eva mentioned that she's leaving me for her boss, I said, loud enough for her friends to hear. Yeah, that's been interesting. All three women leaned in, as if I were the most fascinating thing they'd seen all week. I'm so sorry, Janine said, not sounding sorry at all. That must be so hard. The hardest part is knowing that everyone at her office knew before I did. I let that hang in the air. But I guess that's what happens when your wife sleeps her way into a promotion. Sarah gasped. Michelle's eyes went wide. Janine looked torn between defending Eva and wanting to know more. I shouldn't have said that. I continued, playing my part perfectly. I'm just hurt. It's just hard to find out your wife has been having an affair with Nick Avery for 4 months and that he promoted her to head of HR while they were sleeping together. Makes you wonder about all those other women who applied for that job. You know, the ones who were actually qualified. I walked away, letting that bomb detonate. Behind me, I heard the explosion of whispered conversations, the furious exchange of gossip. By the next morning, everyone in Eva's office would know. By the afternoon, it would get to HR. Oh wait, Eva was HR. By the evening, it would get to the board of directors. I sat back down with Marty, who was trying not to laugh. You're diabolical, he said. I'm meticulous. My phone, now on again, rang 20 minutes later. It was Eva again. What did you do? She shrieked. Janine just called me. She said you were at the bar telling everyone about us. Really? I don't remember. I've been drinking. It's what happens when your wife cheats on you. You're trying to ruin my career. I'm trying to have a beer with my friend. Your career is ruining itself. Nick is going to destroy you. He has lawyers, well, real lawyers. Great. They can talk to my lawyer. Patricia Kowalski. She's very good. She specializes in workplace ethics violations. Silence. Then, you bastard. Eva, you walked into my house with your lover and demanded a divorce. You can't be surprised when I fight back. And honey, this is just the beginning. I hung up and turned to Marty. Another round, brother. I'm buying the whole picture. Nick Avery's company, Averted Solutions, was built on reputation. They provided IT infrastructure for mid-sized companies, and their whole sales pitch was trust, reliability, ethics. Nick himself was on the board of the local chamber of commerce, gave speeches on business integrity. The irony was delicious. I had learned from Janine, before I burned that bridge, that Nick was on the verge of closing the biggest deal of his career, a 5-year contract with Morrison Manufacturing worth over $2 million. The deal was set to close the following week. Morrison Manufacturing was run by Gerald Morrison, a man in his 60s who had built his company from the ground up. Old school, conservative, big on family values and business ethics. I knew this because Morrison Manufacturing had hired Hendricks Construction to build their new warehouse 2 years ago. I had been the project manager. Gerald Morrison and I had gotten along. He appreciated that I'd come in under budget and ahead of schedule. We had exchanged Christmas cards. He had told me if I ever needed anything, to call him. I called him on Friday morning. Well, Peters, how the hell are you? I've been better, Mr. Morrison. I have a situation and I need some advice. Call me Gerald. What's wrong? I told him. Not everything, just enough. That my wife was leaving me for her boss, that this boss had promoted her to head of HR while they were having an affair, that I was concerned about the ethics of the situation, about what it said about the company's values. That's terrible, Will. I'm sorry you're going through that. What company does he work for? Averted Solutions. The silence on the other end of the line was profound. Nick Avery, Gerald said finally. The same. Another long pause. Will, I appreciate you telling me this. Really, I'm not trying to cause trouble, Gerald. I just thought you should know what kind of people you're getting into business with. You did the right thing by calling me. We talked for a few more minutes, then hung up. I sat in my truck in the construction site parking lot, watching the crew work on the new medical building, and I waited. The call came 3 hours later. Not from Gerald, from Nick. Nick's voice was pure rage. Did you call Morrison? Did you sabotage my deal? I didn't sabotage anything. I told the truth. If the truth sabotages your deal, that's not my fault. Morrison pulled out. Millions of dollars gone. Because of you. No, Nick, because of you. Because you couldn't keep your pants on. Because you promoted your girlfriend and created a massive liability for your company. I just helped Morrison see what kind of partner he was getting into bed with. No pun intended. I will destroy you. I will sue you for everything you have. For what? For telling the truth? Good luck with that. But hey, since I have you on the phone, you should know that copies of that envelope went out this morning. One to your board of directors, one to your company's legal department, and one to the local business journal. They're doing a piece on workplace ethics. I thought you'd want a heads up. The sound Nick made was inhuman. I sat in my truck, my hands shaking slightly, not from fear, but from adrenaline, from the sheer thrill of seeing it all come together. My phone rang again. Eva this time. Will, please, you have to stop this. Nick's deal fell through. The board is launching an investigation. They've put me on administrative leave while they review it. You're destroying our lives. You destroyed our life when you brought him into our home. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Can't we talk about this? Sure. Talk to my lawyer. She'll be in touch about the divorce proceedings. Will, please. I hung up. I blocked her number. I blocked Nick's number. Then I called Marty. Feel like getting drunk, brother? I thought you'd never ask. The thing about small towns is that everyone knows everyone else's business. The thing about small towns in Maine is that everyone also has an opinion about that business, and they're not shy about sharing it. By Monday morning, the whole town knew about Eva and Nick. The cashiers at the grocery store knew. The attendants at the gas station knew. Mrs. Dotson had told her entire church congregation. The story had spread like wildfire in dry season, and with each telling, it got a little more scandalous. I had become a local folk hero, the wronged husband, the underdog who fought back. People I barely knew would stop me on the street to shake my hand, to tell me they had my back. The women at the construction office brought me casseroles. Casseroles, like I was a widower. In a way, I guess I was. Eva, on the other hand, had become a pariah. She had checked into a hotel. Apparently, Nick wasn't letting her stay at his place. Now that the affair was public and toxic, she had been suspended from work pending the ethics investigation. Her friends had abandoned her. Even Janine, the gossip queen, had posted a vague Facebook status about knowing your worth and fake friends that was clearly aimed at Eva. I should have felt satisfied. I should have felt like the revenge was complete, but it wasn't over yet. The town's annual tech industry meetup was scheduled for that Saturday. It was a big deal. Local tech companies, business owners, politicians all gathered at the town square pavilion to network and celebrate. Nick's company had been a major sponsor. Before the scandal, Nick was scheduled to give a keynote speech on business excellence. That speech was still on the schedule. The event organizers, probably out of confusion or inertia, hadn't updated it. An idea formed in my head. A terrible, beautiful idea. That's insane, Marty said when I told him. You'll get arrested. For what? For exercising my freedom of speech. For disturbing the peace. I'll be respectful. I'll be calm. I'll just tell the truth. Marty shook his head, but he was grinning. You're going to do it anyway, aren't you? As a matter of fact, I'm. You in, brother? I wouldn't miss it for the world. Saturday came, cold and clear. The town square pavilion was decorated with banners and lights. A stage had been set up for the speeches. Food trucks lined the street. Half the town had turned out, mixing business with pleasure, networking with gossip. I put on my best suit, the one I'd worn at my wedding. It seemed fitting. Nick was there, looking haggard. He'd lost weight. His suit hung on him. He stood near the stage with a few remaining colleagues, people who hadn't abandoned him yet. Eva wasn't with him, smart. She had become too toxic even for him. The speeches started at 6. The mayor went first, talking about economic development, then the head of the Chamber of Commerce. And then it was Nick's turn. He walked to the microphone slowly, like a man approaching the gallows. The crowd had gone quiet. Not a respectful quiet, but an expectant one. Everyone knew the scandal. Everyone was waiting to see what he would say. Good evening. Nick began, his voice cracking slightly. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. Business excellence is built on trust, on integrity, on. I started walking toward the stage. Marty grabbed my arm, but I shook him off gently. People noticed me moving through the crowd. Whispers followed me like a wake. Nick saw me. His face went white. He stopped talking. I walked up the stage steps. The event organizer, a woman named Patricia Chun, tried to stop me, but I held up a hand. I just want to say a few words, I said, loud enough for the microphone to pick up. About business excellence. The crowd was silent now. Nick stood frozen, caught between running and staying. I took the microphone from his hand. He didn't resist. Hello, everyone. I'm Will Peters. Some of you know me. I'm the guy whose wife was sleeping with this man. I pointed at Nick. For 4 months, while he was her boss. While he was promoting her to head of HR. While he was giving speeches on integrity. Gasps from the crowd. Phones coming out, recording. Now, I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm just here to talk about excellence. You see, I believe excellence is doing the right thing, even when it's hard. I believe excellence is being honest. I believe excellence is not sleeping with your employees and then promoting them and then lying about it to your board of directors and your clients. Nick made a grab for the microphone. I sidestepped smoothly. I have proof, by the way. Text messages, photos, financial records, everything that proves a 4-month affair and a promotion that was a clear conflict of interest. I've shared this proof with his company's board of directors, with his clients, and now I'm sharing it with all of you. I pulled out my phone, held up a screenshot of one of the texts. Nothing explicit, just Nick telling Eva he couldn't wait to see her again, with a timestamp from 2 months before her promotion. This is what business excellence looks like in Nick Aberry's world. This is what integrity means to him. The crowd erupted. Some were clapping, some were booing. Not at me, at Nick. Some were just shouting questions. The chaos was beautiful. Nick lunged at me. He actually lunged, his hands reaching for my throat. But Marty was already there, stepping between us. His construction worker build made Nick look small and pathetic. Don't, Marty said quietly. You've lost enough already. Security was moving in. The event organizers were in a panic. I handed the microphone back to Patricia Chun and walked off the stage, through the crowd that parted for me like I was Moses in the Red Sea. Behind me, I heard Nick yelling. I heard the roar of the crowd. I heard the total collapse of what little dignity he had left. I walked to the old boiler room with Marty at my side and ordered a bourbon. My phone was blowing up with texts, calls, friend requests. I ignored it all. You really did it, Marty said, awe in his voice. I really did it. So now what? Now. I took a sip of bourbon. I felt it burn all the way down. Now I wait for Eva to make her final move. Eva showed up at the house on Sunday morning. I was expecting her. The public humiliation at the tech meetup had been the final straw, the thing that would force her hand. I watched from the kitchen window as she got out of a rental car. She had lost weight too. Her hair wasn't done. She wore jeans and a sweatshirt, casual clothes I hadn't seen on her in months. She looked like the woman I married before ambition and Nick Aberry poisoned everything. For a moment, just a moment, I felt something like compassion. Then I remembered her walking into my house with him. I remembered her demanding a divorce, as if I were an inconvenience. I remembered 4 months of lies. The compassion evaporated. She knocked on the door. I let her knock 3 times before I opened it. Will. Her voice was small, broken. Can I come in? No. Please, I need to talk to you. So talk. She looked around nervously. Mrs. Dodson was probably watching from across the street. The whole neighborhood probably was. Can we please do this inside? I considered it, then stepped aside. 5 minutes. She walked in as if she were in a stranger's house. Hesitant, awkward. Good. It wasn't her house anymore, it was mine. We stood in the living room, not sitting. The space between us felt like miles. I'm sorry, she said finally. I'm so sorry, Will. I made a terrible mistake. I got caught up in the promotion, in the excitement, in feeling important. Nick made me feel special, and I lost sight of what really mattered. The speech was rehearsed. I could hear it in the cadence, in the pauses. She had practiced it. Okay, I said. Okay. She looked at me, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. You forgive me? No. I'm just acknowledging that you've spoken. You said you're sorry. I heard you. That's it. Will, please. I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed our marriage. But can't we try to fix it? Can't we go to therapy, work through it? I still love you. No, you don't. Yes, I do. I know I. Eva, you don't love me. You love the idea of not being the villain. You love the idea of having a place to go now that Nick won't touch you and your job is gone and the whole town hates you. You love the idea of stability, but you don't love me. Tears started to roll down her face. Real tears, I thought. But maybe not. Maybe she had learned how to fake those too. I made one mistake. One mistake. Does that erase 20 years together? It wasn't one mistake. It was hundreds of mistakes, hundreds of lies, hundreds of choices to betray me. Every text you sent him, every night you spent with him, every time you came home and looked me in the eye and lied. Those weren't mistakes, they were decisions. I was confused. I was scared. The promotion was so sudden, and Nick was so confident. And I felt like I was finally becoming someone important. You were always important, Eva. You just didn't think being important to me was enough. She broke down then, sinking onto the couch, sobbing into her hands. And I just stood there, watching her, feeling nothing. Or maybe feeling everything, but from a great distance, like I was watching a movie of my own life. What do you want from me? She asked through her tears. What do I have to do to fix this? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. It's over. Will, please. The divorce papers are being filed tomorrow. Patricia Kowalski is handling it. You'll be served at your hotel. Given the adultery and the fact that you've been hiding money, I'm getting the house and the majority of our assets. You get your clothes, your car, and whatever is in that secret bank account. She looked up, shocked. You can't do that. Actually, I can. Patricia explained it all to me. Maine law is very clear on marital misconduct and hidden assets. I'll fight you. With what money? You're suspended from work. Nick's company will probably fire you both when the investigation concludes. You have no income and no allies. But sure, get a lawyer. Spend what little money you have left. I have time. She stood up, anger replacing the tears. There was the real Eva, the one that had emerged in the last 6 months. You're enjoying this, she hissed. You're enjoying tearing my life apart. I'm not tearing your life apart, Eva. I'm just making sure you face the consequences of your choices. There's a difference. You sanctimonious hypocrite. You act like you're perfect, like you never did anything wrong in our marriage. I'm not perfect. I work too much. I wasn't romantic enough. I didn't notice when you needed attention. But I never cheated on you. I never lied to you. I never brought another woman into our home and demanded you accept it. She opened her mouth to reply, then closed it. What could she say? Get out, Eva. This is my house too. Not anymore. Get out, or I'll call the police and have you removed for trespassing. She looked at me as if she were seeing me for the first time. Maybe she was. Maybe she had never really looked at me before. I hate you, she whispered. I know. And I don't care. She left, slamming the door so hard it rattled the windows. I watched her get into her rental car and drive away too fast, tires squealing. Then I sat on my couch in my house, and I finally let myself feel it. The pain, the anger, the loss of 20 years, the end of the future I had imagined. I cried, not for long, but long enough to let it out, to acknowledge what I had lost, even in winning. Then I dried my face, stood up, and called Marty. It's over, I said. How do you feel? Empty, relieved, sad, angry. Everything. Want to get drunk? Not tonight. Tonight, I just want to sit here and remember what it feels like to be alone in my own house. Call me if you need anything, brother. I will. I hung up. I sat in the silence. The house creaked around me, settling into the night. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and red, beautiful and terrible at the same time. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Detective Elisa Grant. I heard about what happened at the tech meetup. I wanted you to know I'm here if you need anything. You did the right thing, standing up for yourself. Not many people do. Lisa Grant. I knew her vaguely. She was a local cop. She came into the boiler room sometimes. We'd spoken a couple of times. Casual conversation. Nothing serious. I texted back. Thanks, I appreciate that. Her reply came quickly. I mean it. You need anything, call me, even just to talk. I smiled, despite everything. Maybe there was life after Eva. Maybe there was a future I hadn't imagined yet, but that would be later. For now, I had a house to reclaim, a life to rebuild, and one last move to make, because Eva and Nick weren't done yet, and neither was I. On Monday morning, I woke up to chaos. My phone had 43 texts, 17 missed calls, and a voicemail from Patricia Kowalski that just said, call me immediately. I called her from my truck on the way to work. Will, we have a problem, she said without preamble. Eva and Nick are planning to skip town. What? Janine called me last night. Apparently, she feels guilty about everything and wants to help. She said Eva told her they're driving to Boston today and then flying to California. Nick has a cousin there who runs a tech startup. They're going to try to start over. I pulled into a gas station parking lot. They can't do that. The divorce isn't finalized. The investigation at Nick's company isn't finished. Technically, they can. There's no legal reason for them to stay. But if they leave, it makes everything much more complicated. Serving the papers, asset division, everything. When are they leaving? Janine said noon. They're meeting at Nick's apartment and driving together. I looked at my watch, 9:15. I had less than 3 hours. What can I do? I asked. Legally, nothing. You can't stop them from leaving. And illegally? Patricia sighed. Will, I'm your lawyer. I can't advise you to do anything illegal. But hypothetically, if someone were to delay their departure long enough for certain legal documents to be served, that would be helpful. Understood. Thanks, Patricia. I hung up and called Marty. Are you busy? I'm at work. But for you, I'm never too busy. Meet me at Nick's apartment building. We're going to stop a couple of rats from jumping ship. Nick lived at the Harbor Towers, the fanciest apartment building in town. All glass and steel and pretension. I had been there once before when I left that envelope at his door. I knew the layout. Marty met me in the parking garage at 10:30. He was grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. What's the plan, brother? We're going to make sure their car doesn't work. I like this plan. We found Nick's BMW easily. Custom license plate that read averted. Subtle. I had my toolbox from the truck. Marty had his. We didn't slash tires or break anything. That would be criminal mischief. Instead, we got creative. I disconnected his battery cables. Didn't remove them, just loosened them enough so they wouldn't make contact. Marty let the air out of his tires to exactly 15 psi, low enough to trigger the warnings, not low enough to be obviously flat. I took his windshield wiper blades and hid them under a nearby car. Then, for a final touch, I used a grease pen to write on his windshield. Cheaters can't run. It would wipe off eventually. We were done by 11. We moved our trucks to street level and waited. Eva and Nick came out of the building at 11:45, pulling suitcases. They looked furtive, nervous, like criminals fleeing the scene, which in a way, they were. Nick opened the trunk and loaded the bags. Eva got in the passenger seat. Nick got in the driver's seat. The car didn't start. We watched from half a block away as Nick tried again and again. We watched him get out, pop the hood, stare at the engine as if it were a foreign language. We watched Eva get out, frustrated, looking at her phone. Should we help them? Marty asked, barely containing his laughter. Let's give them a minute. Nick was on the phone, probably calling a mechanic or a tow truck. Eva was pacing, clearly angry. They were arguing. We couldn't hear the words, but the body language was clear. Then, a police car pulled into the parking garage. Detective Lisa Grant got out, along with another officer. She walked straight up to Nick and Eva, said something, and handed Nick an envelope. She's serving him, I whispered. Serving him with what? Probably a subpoena for the ethics investigation. Maybe a restraining order from one of his former employees. Patricia mentioned there were 3 women considering legal action. Nick tore open the envelope. His face went from confusion to horror. Eva read over his shoulder, her expression matching his. Detective Grant said something else, nodded, and walked back to her car, but she didn't leave. She just sat there, engine running, watching them. She's making sure they don't bolt, Marty said. She's a good cop. We watched for another 20 minutes. A tow truck arrived. Nick and Eva stood there, looking defeated. Their escape plan literally falling apart, or technically, stranded in the parking garage. My phone rang. Detective Grant. You wouldn't know anything about Nick Abry's car trouble, would you? She asked. I'm a construction project manager, not a mechanic. Uh-huh. Well, just so you know, he's been served. He's not going anywhere. Neither is Eva. Good to hear. Will, I'm going to say this once. What you did at the tech meetup was public speech. What you're doing now, if you are doing anything, is bordering on harassment. Be careful. I appreciate the advice, Detective. Lisa. Call me Lisa. I appreciate the advice, Lisa. She hung up. I sat in my truck, watching Nick and Eva's escape plan crumble, and I felt a kind of peace settle over me. So now what? Marty asked. Now we go to work. We have a building to finish. That's it. The chase is over. The chase is over. They're stuck here, facing the consequences. That's all I wanted. Marty shook his head, still smiling. Brother, you're my hero. We drove to the job site. I spent the rest of the day doing real work, managing real problems, living my real life. It felt good, normal, real. That night, Patricia called with an update. Eva's been served with the divorce papers. Nick has been served with 3 separate subpoenas. One from his company's board of directors, one from Morrison Manufacturing for the failed deal, and one from a former employee who is filing a harassment claim. The harassment claim is new. Apparently, your public speech inspired her to come forward. She was afraid before, but seeing you stand up for yourself gave her courage. I felt something twist in my chest. Pride, maybe, or responsibility. Will she be okay? She has a good lawyer. She'll be okay. Better than okay. She has a strong case. Good. Well, you should know. Eva is trying to fight the terms of the divorce. She's claiming emotional distress. Says you publicly humiliated her. I did publicly humiliate her. Yes, but it was truthful speech, and she committed adultery. Maine law is on your side, but it could drag on longer than we hoped. I have time. I know you do. I'll keep you updated. That night I sat on my porch with a bourbon, watching the street. Mrs. Dodson waved from her window. I waved back. A couple walking their dog stopped to chat, to tell me they were proud of how I had handled everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Lisa Grant. A drink sometime. I looked at the text for a long time. Then I typed back. Yes, I'd like that. Her reply was a smiley face. I sat there as the sun went down, as the streetlights came on, as the town settled into the night. My town, my street, my house, my life. Eva and Nick had tried to take it from me. They had failed. I had won, not because I was stronger or smarter or better, but because I refused to be the victim. Because I fought back with the truth and persistence, and with a willingness to make them face what they had done. The promotion party was over. The revenge was complete, and I was, finally, free. Epilogue. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in March. Eva signed the papers without a fight. She had run out of money for lawyers and energy to battle. She got her clothes, her car, and $10,000 from the hidden account. I got everything else. She moved to Portland. I heard through the grapevine she was working in retail, living with a roommate, trying to piece her life back together. Nick was gone from the city completely, to California as planned, but alone. His company had fired him. The harassment lawsuit had been settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. His reputation was destroyed. I felt nothing for either of them. Not anger, not satisfaction, not curiosity. They were just people I used to know, living out their own consequences. I had started dating Lisa Grant. Nothing serious yet, just dinners and movies and long talks. She was funny, honest, and had no patience for games. After Eva, that was exactly what I needed. Marty had finally finished his deck. We sat on it most weekends, drinking beer and watching the sunset over the bay. Do you ever regret it? He asked me one night. The revenge, the public humiliation, all of it. I thought about it. I really thought about it. No, I said finally. I don't. They tried to make me the fool, the victim, the guy who just takes his fate. I refused to be that guy. I fought back with the truth. I made them face what they had done. I don't regret that. You're a better man than me, brother. I'm just a man who was pushed too far and pushed back. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn orange and red and purple. The bay was calm. The evening was warm, and my life was my own again. My phone rang. Patricia Kowalski. Will, I have news. Eva has filed for bankruptcy. She's claiming the divorce settlement was unfair and is petitioning the court to review the asset division. I sighed. Will it work? No, the judge already ruled. She's just desperate and grasping at straws, but I wanted you to know. Thanks, Patricia. I hung up and told Marty what she had said. She never learns, he said. No, she doesn't. But I had learned. I had learned that betrayal doesn't have to break you. I had learned that standing up for yourself doesn't make you the villain. I had learned that sometimes the only way forward is to burn the bridges behind you and refuse to look back. Eva and Nick had tried to ruin my life. Instead, they had freed me from a marriage that was already crumbling, from a wife who didn't appreciate me, from a future that would have been a slow burn of resentment and regret. They had done me a favor. They just didn't know it. I raised my beer to Marty. He raised his. To new beginnings, I said. To a revenge well executed, he replied. We drank. The sun set. The bay went dark. And somewhere in Portland, Eva was living with the consequences of her choices, just as I was living with mine. The difference was, I was happy with mine.